No two people are the same. It's one of the first things we learn as children. Our brain is designed to pick up subtle differences in faces so that we don't confuse people for each other. As we grow older, we learn that not only are the people around us separate entities, but each of them has lived a unique life filled with trials and lessons and pain and joy and love. Each of them has walked a unique path that has shaped them into the person they are today. And if we're curious, we can ask people about their lives and hear their stories. We can wonder at the endless potential of the human experience and the breathtaking diversity of our consciousness. No two people are the same. And so when some guy shows up and says, actually there are 9 categories of people in the world and they have numbers, your reaction is obviously going to be, no, because you're smart and you know how people work and you know it can't possibly be that simple. Yours is a warranted and rational response to such a bonkers claim. When I first encountered the Enneagram as a teenager, it was my response too. People at my high school were comparing their test results and saying things like, I'm a 2, so that means I'm nice to people. Or, I'm a 7, so that means I'm positive and fun. At the time, I regarded myself as hyper-rational and above anything that did not meet my standard of objectivity. What is this blue-pilled, astrology-adjacent BuzzFeed clownery, I thought to myself, and I proceeded to throw the Enneagram in the trash and move on with my life. It wasn't until years later in college when I finally decided to give it another chance. I don't even remember why. I think I was just bored, but somehow I found myself neck-deep in Enneagram content, and in the months that followed, it proved to be the single most useful tool I had ever encountered. I came to realize that the Enneagram I was first exposed to, the Enneagram that most people encounter and promptly dismiss on account of its ridiculousness, is not the true Enneagram. Internet culture and consumerism have taken a very old, very powerful tool and turned it into a hollow novelty that, quite frankly, deserves to be mocked. This video is my attempt to set the record straight. Most people are skeptical of the Enneagram because it seems to put humans in categories, as in, the Enneagram takes whole-ass humans in all of their richness and complexity and just throws them into bins. 4, 9, 2, which again would be ridiculous, but what most people, even a lot of Enneagram fans, don't realize is that the Enneagram does not put humans into categories. It puts human problems into categories. As a matter of fact, in older versions of the Enneagram, you wouldn't have said, I am a type 2, you would have said, I have a type 2 fixation. This change in language from I have to I am is, in my opinion, the root of all the modern Enneagram's problems. It takes your Enneagram complex from a negative part of you that can be worked on to a neutral, all-encompassing label, a basket of adjectives tastefully paired with a Tumblr mood board, OMG, type 2 vibes. And that's what you see when you Google search the Enneagram. You see the mutated, consumerized version of it. I remember first explaining my new and improved understanding of the Enneagram to someone, and their initial reaction was, wow, that's so negative. It feels like you're just insulting people. But that's what people don't get about this system. It's about the negative. It's meant to give you the language to identify your problems and solve them. Everybody has bullshit. The Enneagram just asks, hey, what if we identified the usual types of bullshit people have and we gave them numbers? But why the numbers? It feels a bit tacky, right? Why not just talk about the issues? Well, the only reason we use the numbers is because it's easier to say Drake's a 3 than it is to say Drake seeks external validation through success because he feels inadequate as a person and subconsciously believes he needs to be better than others in order to get his needs met. The numbers are a shorthand. They're not essential to the theory. You can throw them out and it all still works. And that's doubly true of the labels. At least numbers are neutral and sterile, but the whole peacemaker, challenger thing definitely goes in the trash. I want to avoid promoting aesthetics or external descriptors for these types. I'm a purist. The Enneagram is about the why behind a thing. So a type 3 in America would seek external validation in an American way, and a type 3 in Japan would seek external validation in a Japanese way. On the surface, they might be behaving very differently, but if you look at the why, you realize they're both pursuing validation through success in their respective cultures. It's the same psychological mechanism. That's why we say they're both 3s. When you relieve yourself of the need to categorize whole people and just focus on categorizing those subconscious urges, everything becomes so much more clear. Your Enneagram type doesn't describe all of you, it just describes the adaptive drives that shape your decisions. I say adaptive because your Enneagram level urges are thought to be left over from a time when they were necessary for getting your needs met. Drake probably grew up in an environment where love was, to some degree, conditional on his success, and that's where his 3-ness comes from. You have all 9 urges inside of you, but by the time you reached adulthood, one of those urges inevitably outgrew the others and started steering the ship. And so most Enneagrammers are comfortable just treating that dominant urge as a form of categorization. But the point of the Enneagram isn't to categorize people. The point of the Enneagram isn't even to be true. The point of the Enneagram is to be useful. People will be at my throat insisting there's no evidence, it's not scientific, there's no data, how could you promote this? It's because I don't care. I use it and it works. It's made me a lot of money. It's put a ton of dope-ass contacts in my phone. That's truth enough for me. It's like if you knew the exact spot to kick the vending machine to get a free snack. You don't know why. You don't have the schematics of the vending machine. You just know, kick this spot and you get free chips. I don't actually care how brains work. I'm here to perform a task, which is to navigate the world and succeed to the best of my ability. And the Enneagram helps me accomplish that task. It's quite simple. Once you really know it, you start to see it everywhere. I'll hear a person say something in a meeting and I'll go, oh, that's a 5. And I'll think, okay, what do I know about 5s? How do I communicate with this person? And then I'll use what I know about 5s to make them feel seen. People skills are often regarded as sort of a vague intuition. And to some, maybe they are. Maybe you just catch a vibe and ride it, and that's how you deal with people. But I don't have that gift. I have been socially awkward my entire life. I had to consciously learn how to deal with people. I had to build my intuition from scratch. Without tools like the Enneagram, I don't know where I would be. And as someone who is so enmeshed in this stuff, when I hear someone say, people are a mystery, bro, you can't just generalize and categorize them, bro, they're too complicated, bro, you know what I think? I think those people are telling on themselves. Like what, you don't see the patterns? You aren't picking up on any of this? Really? Okay. Some other common misconceptions about the Enneagram. It's an online test. No, the Enneagram is not a test. Tests have been made about it and most suck. They can be a good jumping off point, but they usually lead people astray. I've been mistyped by tests many times. Serious students of the Enneagram generally do not value them. When I hear someone refer to the Enneagram as a test, it's sort of like saying Pokemon is a card game. Another all too common misconception, there is an official Enneagram. Incorrect. Nobody owns the Enneagram. It's very old. It dates back to ancient monotheistic traditions. It's not licensed by any corporation. You could write a book or make a website about it right now with no oversight needed. In fact, a lot of people have. Every author has their own interpretation of it. Some interpretations I find helpful, others I feel miss the mark. The way I describe the types is different from the way other people describe them. I've cherry-picked from all the resources at my disposal. I've changed the wording around in certain areas. I've honed my understanding of the Enneagram to the degree that it's kind of just my system at this point. It's a version of this system that works for me. And that's what this series is going to be about. I'm going to go through each of the types and use fictional characters as examples. I know other YouTubers have done this, but I think I can do better, so that's the plan. If my appeals to Enneagram skeptics have fallen on deaf ears, that is most regrettable. Once again, I would encourage you to approach this stuff pragmatically. It's not about truth. It's about what works. There is an abstract logic within the subconscious mind that you're not going to be able to represent with hard data. If you reject the Enneagram on those grounds, you're also throwing away talk therapy, psychoanalysis, persona work, shadow work, attachment theory, somatic theory, basically the nuts and bolts of everything related to self-improvement and trauma healing. A massive interlocking network of tools at your disposal for free that you won't even look twice at because you don't understand the assignment. It's not about truth. It's about what works. And in the context of storytelling, if not every other human activity, the Enneagram f***ing works. You guys have no idea how long I've been waiting to go full Enneagram mode on this channel. I held off for a while because I wanted to make sure I could do all the numbers justice, but we are finally here. I will be tackling each type from a practical storytelling angle. So it's going to be less like, oh, look at him, he's a 1. Oh, look at that other guy, he's also a 1. And more like, here are the types of stories and the types of characters that fit in them. But I did want to pregame this party with what I feel is essential Enneagram prerequisite knowledge. Before you even get into the numbers, there's something that comes first. A lot of people miss out on this and it cripples their understanding of the Enneagram. It's the 3 clusters. The heart cluster, the fear cluster, and the gut cluster. These are like the primary colors of the Enneagram, the 3 main energies that everything else gets built on. The heart cluster, that's 2, 3, and 4, is primarily concerned with issues of love and self-worth. The fear cluster, that's 5, 6, and 7, is primarily concerned with existential anxiety and the different ways one can manage it. And in the gut cluster are types 8, 9, and 1. These are people who chase a state of peace in the body. Issues of boundaries and anger are at the forefront for them. Someone really dropped the ball there by not aligning the numbers correctly, but it is what it bees. A lot of people understand the Enneagram as a system of interconnected types where one just flows freely into the next and it's one big perfect kumbaya color wheel. This is not the case. The reality is heart types are far more similar to other heart types than they are to their neighbors in other clusters. The spacing is not even. This is why I say clusters, because triads doesn't communicate the distance. The jump from 4 to 3 is nothing. The jump from 4 to 5 is much more substantial. Yeah, the types on the Enneagram symbol are arranged as well as they can be, sure. However, like 4 and 5 are placed next to each other because they have behaviors that can resemble each other, and they look like one could sort of bleed into the next, but 4s and 5s have completely different core configurations. Same with 7s and 8s, same with 2s and 1s. We're really dealing with 3 primary groups of people. If you've ever been in a relationship or been very close with someone from another cluster, you know the gap is wide. It's like when you were a kid and you learned that the sun and the moon weren't the same size and distance away from Earth. People from other clusters can feel like they're just on a completely different frequency sometimes. Like they have priorities that you don't, and you're like, why is that a factor for you? And I have good friends from the other clusters, but the people who I get, the people who I can talk about the ugly stuff with, they're all from my cluster. We got the same base, same energy. I know the word energy is going to make some people roll their eyes, but it is the easiest way to communicate the broad strokes of this system. I'm not trying to imply a supernatural or metaphysical component, I promise. One more thing, don't expect me to get into the bells and whistles of the Enneagram. People get so hung up on, is this character a 2-wing 3 or a 2-wing 1? Are they a social or sexual 2? Do they have a something fix? Oh yeah, that subtype is called the pooper because blah, 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 blah. And for me, it's just like, why? The point of the Enneagram is not to categorize things for the sake of categorizing things. It's to chart a course for growth. So what's the point of this hyper labeling? Why do we need that? There's a line in any social theory where you want it to be specific enough that it's useful, but not so specific that it gets lost in its own sauce. With the Enneagram, you'll get people who have this big mental periodic table of all the different types and subtypes and wings and permutations, and they'll whip it out like, yes, my spreadsheet says a self-pres social blind 9-wing 8 will act like X, Y, and Z, and it seems smart, but I think it speaks to an amateurish understanding of the theory that hasn't had time to develop into a solid intuition. People want to learn more, but they don't want to learn deeper. I will draw from the extra stuff when I think it's useful, which it sometimes is, but my sole mission here is to show how you can wield the Enneagram as a narrative tool, and 99% of that comes down to having a deep intuitive understanding of every number. I am going to be a dick to everyone. That is the point of the Enneagram. Listen very closely. Any, and I mean any, positive trait or skill associated with a given number is a secondary side effect of that number's core issue. Take a 3, for example. 3s tend to be very good diplomats and salespeople, but that's not a part of 3ness. That is a skill they picked up during a lifetime of system pleasing. Yeah, 3s tend to be good at those things, but why? Because they developed those skills in pursuit of maladaptive ends. If you overcome your type fixation, then yeah, you get to keep the tools and use them for good. But the positive traits associated with each type are a secondary byproduct of the actual Enneagram complex at the heart of it all, which is 100% FDA certified toxic. There is no healthy 3. There is only a person who was burdened with a 3 complex and managed to rein it in. Failure to recognize this hurts the Enneagram's credibility because people will start looking at the skills, the byproducts, the manifestation level traits and going, well, it says here that 3s are outgoing, but they list Michael Jordan as a 3 and he's kind of mean. So the Enneagram is stupid. There are infinite ways a type fixation could show up in the world, an infinite amount of whats, but there is a finite number of whys, and that's what the Enneagram is about. The why and only the why. The Enneagram is a torch you carry with you into the darkest, most pathological depths of your subconscious. It's helped me in my journey as a person immensely, both internally and in my relationships. And for a while, I even considered not talking about it online because I was like, well, if they learn it too, then I won't be the only one with the nukes anymore. But given that the void comes for us all, I'm trying to be more genuinely altruistic, and I mean it without a smidge of irony when I say I think this tool can significantly elevate the consciousness of the human species. I am here to put you on some game, using the only thing I'm good at, which is fiction. It's going down, and I'm going to give you the deets on precisely how it is going down. But first, looking for other ways to boost your writing game? Well, take a good, long, hard, good look at today's sponsor, Skillshare. In writing this upcoming series of videos, I was looking for fresh perspectives on my craft. Turns out when you type in writing on Skillshare, you get 2,239 results, which is a big number in this context. Part of the fun of being in this writing discourse space is that I get to interact with so many different perspectives that I don't normally even consider. There's no one way to write a story, and you can see that clearly with how different all of these courses are. I'm a big fan of Ashley C. Ford's class on writing authentically because I'm fake. Joshua Dickinson's Write Your Screenplay, The Craft of Story Structure and Script covers all of the screenplay essentials with staggering efficiency. And there are so many more. You want time-bound exercises, wordplay, you just want to write picture books, it's all there. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives. It has thousands of courses led by industry experts, and I'm not just talking creative writing. How about productivity and more efficient business habits? The Notion Masterclass has you more than covered. Just dive in and start learning. Learning is one of the coolest things humans do. Don't take it for granted, especially if you're in your early 20s like I am. Your brain isn't fully formed. Now's the time to learn that skill you've always wanted to learn. The first 500 people to use my link in the description will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Get started today. Yeah, so I'm dropping 9 today. You should have seen that. I'm gonna go in descending order. So next week will be 8. 8 and 7 are already on my Patreon in like semi-completed form. I was hoping to get them like done, but you know, things get in the way. But I'm gonna stay at least 1 video ahead. So if you want to support me, that's a good way to do it. Yeah, I've been gone for a while. Mentally gone, I think. I was in a freaky parallel world, but I'm back. I'm back to do stuff. So thanks for sticking around. Thanks for supporting the channel. And we're gonna go hard. We're gonna go hard in the yard. We're gonna go ham. Ham salad. All right, well, I'll see you guys next week.